Good evening, YouTube. My name is Dan, and I'm the coach of your St. Louis Rampardos. Week 10 of the GBA is here, and the St. Louis Rampardos are taking on the Atlanta Hawluchas and Fizzy Stardust. Before I jump into this week's matchup, let's talk a little bit about last week's match against El Scizor and the Borussia Donphan. I do apologize for getting frustrated throughout that match. However, it was quite challenging dealing with all of those disconnects. It looks like we should be good to go today against Fizz, so I'm looking forward to trying to break our losing streak here and get back on a winning track and hopefully continue our playoff push, as we do have quite a bit of pressure from the rest of our division. We're Old Man Top, Gym Leader Geo, and then Pokemon and the New Orleans Pelipers from the other conference are all challenging for this playoff spot that we're fighting for right now, as we are now tied for first place with Lars, who has a better differential than us. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about Fizz. Now, the Atlanta Hawluchas coach Fizz is a tremendous battler, guys, a tremendous battler. He is 8-1 so far in the GBA this season as his return to the GBA, and he has the best record overall, and I believe one of the best differentials, if not the best differential. So we definitely have our work cut out for us here, but if there's someone who can beat him, if there's a team that can beat Fizz, I believe it is us. I believe it is the St. Louis Rampardos, and I think we can come out on top here with a victory. I think I built a team that's appropriate to make sure we're able to check and counter all the threats that he has, and hopefully come out with a W at the end of the day. I would really appreciate if you guys would go check out Fizz's channel as well. I'll mention it again in the actual match tomorrow, but definitely go show him some love, guys. He does have a tremendous team, very interesting team, a team that I've never faced. I've never faced a team like this before, but again, I think we've made the proper preparations to give ourselves a chance to win here. So anyway, looking at Fizz's team, we're going to go down his lineup here. He's got a Togekiss, Fairy-type Pokemon, Flying-type, has the ability to run Defog, also has Recovery with Roost, can get some para-flinching shenanigans with Thunder Wave and Air Slash. He's got a Garchomp here, which hits that 102 base speed tier, makes it very challenging for us to play around because it is going to be fast on our Victini, kind of like how we dealt with Landorus with Lars. Very similar, they're not the same Pokemon by any means, but similar idea in how we have to play around them. And the thing about Garchomp is it's incredibly versatile. It could be an offensive Garchomp with Swords Dance. It could be a Scarf Garchomp taking advantage of that speed stat. It can be defensive with Rough Skin Rocky Helmet to be a hazard setter early game. It can do a lot of different things, so we do have to keep that in mind. It also pairs nicely with his Tyranitar, but we'll get to that a little bit later. He's got a Heliolisk as well, which is a phenomenal tier 4 pick. It will definitely get moved up next season, I believe, in the draft, as it was valued a little bit lower than it probably should have been. But Heliolisk is a phenomenal Pokemon, rocking a very unique speed tier as well, carrying things like Thunderbolt, Volt Switch. It actually gets Surf as well, Hyper Voice. It gets Focus Blast, a lot of different coverage for Heliolisk, so it actually can put in quite a bit of work. A little bit weak in terms of its offensive pressure, but for the most part, this thing is actually a pretty big beast because it can Volt Switch around. Not to mention, it does have the Dry Skin ability, which makes it so it actually can take on Water-type moves and absorb them. It also has Solar Power, so in the sun, it actually gets boosted, kind of like Life Orb, and it just got a number of different things. It also gets Sand Veil, so it pairs nicely with the sand. So he's got a lot of different things going on there for his Heliolisk that makes it a very multi-dimensional and diverse Pokemon that we have to prepare for. He's got a Starmie, which is probably one of the best spinners in the game, next to maybe Excadrill. Thing's very fast, 115 base speed, 100 special attack, great coverage, fairy coverage, Dazzling Gleam, Thunderbolt, obviously Scald and Surf, Recover, Rapid Spin. And it also has a unique move called Reflect Type, where it turns into the type of the opposing Pokemon and makes it so it can oftentimes counter its potential weaknesses, being Water and Psychic type. So he could Reflect Type my Aggron, take my Steel typing, and then all of a sudden my Iron Heads don't really do much to him. I don't foresee that being what he does, but he could, right? So he could have that option. He's got a Tyranitar as well, which is obviously could be an offensive Pokemon. It's regular Tyranitar. Could be like a Dragon Dance Sweeper. Could be a Pursuit Trapper for Victini, which is very, very likely. He could be running a Fighting Reduction Berry. I can't remember what it's called. The Koba? No. What is it called? I don't even remember. Choppleberry. He could be running the Choppleberry. He could be doing a number of different things with his Tyranitar, and it does set up the Sand, obviously, which gives him a special defense boost, and it also powers up another one of his Pokemon, which we'll talk about a little bit later. He's got this Venomoth, which he actually just swept with last week. I think he picked up 5 kills with his Venomoth, getting off a Sleep Powder, and then being able to Quiver Dance up, firing off Sludge Bombs and Bug Buzzes, and so on and so forth. While I do think Venomoth is a potential threat because of the Sleep Powder, I feel that I have enough answers on my team to handle it, so I'm hoping he might not even bring it, but if you guys don't know, the baton pass clause is not active in the GBA. You are able to baton pass, stat boost, including speed, so he could quiver dance and baton pass with Venomoth, which is what makes it so valuable. He's got a Weezing here, which is a very, very big physically defensive wall, and he might actually bring Weezing. It's a poison type Pokemon that does levitate, obviously, and it could put in some work, so you'll see I kind of prepared for Weezing as well. Although I don't consider it to be a huge threat, it still is one. He's got a Chestnut as well, very, very bulky Pokemon, carrying spikes potentially. He could also run Spiky Shield to maybe wear down my Victini. He's also got Leech Seed and Drain Punch and things like that to potentially wear down my team. And Chestnut is actually a pretty interesting Pokemon. So while I didn't really carry a whole lot of flying coverage, you'll see, I do think we have enough answers for Chestnut as well. He's got a Stoutland, which has the Sand Rush ability, which is going to get boosted in the sand from that Tyranitar, doubling its speed style, making it outspeed everything on my team. So that is something we need to keep in mind. Stoutland in the sand is insanely challenging for me to take down, and I really had to build my team around that. Luckily for us, we have Aggron, but nevertheless, Stoutland is a huge threat, and he's got a Frostlass he picked up from free agency, another Spike Setter, Destiny Bond lead, can do a lot of different things. Frostlass is a very good Pokemon as well. One of those Pokemon, I don't know if I necessarily see him bringing Frostlass, but Fizz has been known to do some funky stuff, and he's very crafty with his sets and his team building, so he always seems to be a step ahead of whoever he's playing against. So we're really gonna have to make sure we turn up when we get to the match. And his Mega Pokemon is actually Mega Charizard Y, which is a Mega that I actually had when I originally joined the GBA in GBA Season 3. Mega Charizard Y does take 50% to Stealth Rocks when it switches in, but due to its Drought ability getting the sun up for 5 turns, you've got Fire Blast. You've got Solar Beam, which hits incredibly hard against across my team. The Fire Grass coverage can do a lot. Victini can take both of those, and Victini might be able to benefit from the sun. But even so, Charizard is a huge wall breaker, and it's one of the few things in the game that can OHKO Mega Aggron. So we do need to keep in mind that. So anyway, let's jump into our team here, which I'm sure what you guys are here for, and I'll run through the team as thoroughly as I can, as I try to do my team breakdowns a little bit more thorough. But kicking things off this week, I saw one potential hole in his team, one big one that I really wanted to exploit, and he might see this coming, but I felt like I needed to do this. We're going to be bringing our Choice Spec Sylveon again with Hyper Voice. We've got Psyshock there to cover a couple things like the Venomoth. We've got HP Rock there, which does OHKO the Charizard Y. We've got Heal Bell on there as well for just general team support, even though I'm Specs. You guys have seen me do that a few times where I run like Specs or Scarf Pokemon with Heal Bell. I don't really think it's that big of a deal. I think it could help us in a pinch, and you'll see kind of my strategy. We've got a little bit of speed on there, just a speed creep Chestnut by a few points in case he wants to throw a couple EVs there. We've got a lot of bulk, HP and defense, and then obviously max special attack with Pixelate. Hyper Voice does 2-hit KOs everything on his team. The only thing that can potentially not be 2-hit KO'd is the Mega Charizard and specially defensive Togekiss, but everything else on his team gets pretty much 2-shotted by Sylveon, and a lot of things get 1-shotted by it as well. So I really think that Sylveon can put in a good amount of work, and because of its special bulk, it should be able to live some hits from things like Starmie, like Togekiss, and so on and so forth. It can live a hit from Charizard, and I really think it could put in some work, you know, this week, getting that Hyper Voice off. Definitely a potential lead for us to put that pressure on early and try to break some of those walls really quickly, especially if he leaves with his Garchomp or something like that. I can live in Iron Tail unless he's banded, and I can fire off a Hyper Voice here and knock him out. So a lot of potential there, and he can't switch his Zard Y in. And if he leads with Zard Y, I can HP Rock. So we have a couple different options there. The next Pokemon we're bringing is our Aggron here. Standard EV spread, Impish with max HP, a lot of special defense investment. We've got the Avalanche on there, which does OHKO the Garchomp. It hits the Togekiss really hard. It does hit the Charizard decently well. It's going to hit the Chestnut okay. We've got Ironhead on there, which does hit the Tyranitar and the Togekiss as well. It's also going to just give us general stab coverage, Frostlass, and so on. We've got the Dragon Tail on there as well, a little bit unique. I've been wanting to run Dragon Tail Aggron for the majority of the season. I've yet to do it until today. The Dragon Tail can force some switches, and if I get those Stealth Rocks up early, it could maybe take a toll on that Charizard, get him down to 50% right off the bat, and make him a little bit easier for me to revenge kill with something else. Also forces him to switch around. Maybe he, like I send out Aggron, he's trying to switch into a counter, and I can just Dragon Tail it into something else, and that gives me another free turn, and I can do some shuffling and kind of make it work. Because if Aggron is able to kind of hold it down here, it can really wall a lot of his team. So you'll see the last move we're carrying this week is going to be Rest, and Rest is just to kind of increase our survivability and longevity with our Aggron. It pairs nicely with the Heal Bell on the Sylveon, and you know, I don't want to be sitting there for 2 turns as a sitting duck, but because of of Aggron's natural bulk and just a filter ability, I'm able to take hits from that Garchomp pretty well. I'm able to take hits from things like Togekiss and even Starmie and even Tyranitar. I serve as a great check to even Fire Blast Tyranitar. It serves as a great response to Stoutland. I mean, Aggron really stops a lot of his team, so even Superpower from Stoutland as a band is only like 30% damage. It really isn't doing too much. The next Pokemon is going to be our captain, Victini V-Drive. Bringing it back again this week. Carrying the Expert Belt to potentially bluff either a Scarf or a Band or something like that. We've got the Bolt Strike to hit the Charizard, the Starmie, to hit the Togekiss, a bunch of different things. We've got the V-Create there as well, which is the Chestnut and everything really hard. We are Expert Belt boosted. Glaciate there, which is going to be powered up by the Expert Belt, especially hitting things like Garchomp. Do not forget that Glaciate actually does drop the speed stat of the Pokemon when it hits it, kind of like Icy Wind, so that's something to keep in mind. And then we've got Brick Break there as well for the Tyranitar. If he's not running like a bulky Tyranitar, I actually can hit him with like a V-Create and then actually potentially outspeed him and Brick Break him and kill him if he doesn't have the Choble Berry. So we have a couple different options there. I do expect him to bring in that T-Tar against my Victini to potentially Pursuit Trap me, which is why that Brick Break is so useful. And even if Victini hits something really hard and brings the Tyranitar down super low, it just opens the door for something else to revenge kill and get rid of the sand. Because if I get rid of the sand, that's going to really eliminate the Stoutland as a threat if he brings it, at least as a major threat, because now I won't be able to outspeed my team. So that's our Victini there. I went with Brick Break over Focus Miss because I don't want to miss, obviously, and I invested heavily into my physical attack. I'm actually running max speed Adamant. I'm sorry, max speed Naughty, so I have fully attack invested, a little bit of decrease in my special defense, but that's going to allow me to speed tie with a modest Charizard Y in case he decides to bring that. And I just outspeed a lot of other things on his team. I didn't play with the EVs too much on this. I wasn't going to kind of adjust too much. I just wanted to go max speed, max attack. That's pretty simple. The next Pokemon we're bringing this week is going to be our Tesla, our Jolteon, who's done a phenomenal job this season. I'm starting to learn how to use this Pokemon more effectively. We're carrying the Timid nature with the Zap Plate as well this time, hopefully bluffing the potential that we're Specs, and by doing more damage with our electric type moves. We've got the HP Ice on there for the Garchomp, of course. Volt Switch and Thunderbolt, obviously, would be really nice to be able to bluff a Scarf or a Specs in this thing. And last but not least, we actually have the Toxic on there. I debated between a number of different moves, but a primary switch in for this thing would be like T-Tar or something like that. And getting off a Toxic on that would be lovely, and then I could just full switch out. So I really think that Jolteon could put in a lot of work. It'd be nice to get a Toxic off on that, or the Garchomp switching in, potentially predicting a T-Bolt or something like that. And nothing in his team really wants to take a Toxic, aside from his Poison types and his Starmie. So I think that if we can actually hit the Toxic, we'll be good. And people always harp on how lucky I am. Our Toxic accuracy this season, I think, is 61.5%. It's a 90% accurate move, so let's hope we don't miss any this week. The next Pokemon we're bringing is our Cerebro, or Uxie again, which hasn't gotten off to the start I wanted it to, but it serves as a really good utility Pokemon for my team. Carrying max HP, we've got, I'm sorry, let me backtrack to that Jolteon. We're running max special attack Timid, just enough speed on that to actually outspeed a T-Tar with a Scarf or a Dragon Dancing T-Tar, so we could Volt Switch out ahead of that, just so you guys know the speed stat on that, which obviously will outspeed the Starmie and everything else. So Jolteon outspeeds everything on his team except for Stoutland and a potential Scarfer. So Stoutland in the sand and a Scarfer. So nice to know with Jolteon. So again, this Uxie set is actually max physically defensive, max HP, a lot of defense investment, and a tiny bit of speed. We actually have just enough speed on there to outspeed max speed T-Tar as well. Allow us to get that U-turn off in case he wants to go for like a crunch or something. We've got Psychic Stealth Rocks there because I need them for Charizard Y. I've got the U-turn, and then we have Heal Bell again. So I'm carrying two Heal Bellers, both Sylveon and Uxie, which is going to really pair nicely with our Mega Aggron, potentially heal off that rest. Mega Aggron, as you've probably seen through the first 9 weeks of this season, is such a core piece of this team, and the longer Mega Aggron makes it through the match, the better my chances of winning are, because it just straight up stops so many things. There's very few things that can 3-hit KO or 2-hit KO Mega Aggron, and it can 2-hit KO most things back. So it ends up being a very, very valuable Pokemon that can trade 1 for 1 or just completely stop something in its entirety. And that's our Uxie set. Like I said, the Psychic is there. Even though Psyshock might be better, Psychic hits the Weezing better because it's so physically bulky. We're going to hit the Venomoth pretty decently. We hit the Chestnut from the special side, which is nice. And we can wear down a couple other things. I mean, it's like a 3 or 4 hit KO on like an offensive Chomp. But I could take hits from Garchomp too. The Uxie and Sylveon pair really nicely together against Garchomp because he can't EQ, because then Uxie comes in and he can't outrage because then Sylveon comes in for free. So a couple different options there, and with the leftovers, we should be able to recover up. He doesn't really have any Pokemon with knockoff, which I noticed, which left me a little bit more comfortable than I otherwise would be in terms of my team building. Normally, I'm very careful about the items I carry because I don't want them getting knocked off, and I think about what happens if it gets knocked off. Do I lose the viability of this Pokemon? This time, I don't have to worry about that. Uxie's going to have those leftovers for the duration of the battle, it looks like. But last thing, and last but certainly not least, our 6th Pokemon this week is going to be our Blastoise. Shell-shocked here, coming back, has done a great performance, has had a great performances this season after being picked up from free agency. And our Blastoise is carrying a very, very unique set, one that I've been kind of mulling over for a couple weeks now. Almost brought it last week against Lars for his Landorus, but went against it. I probably should have. But we brought it this week, and we're going to bring a Calm Nature, max HP, a lot of it defense investment, and a little bit of special defense investment with an Assault Vest. So that's going to basically allow us to take a Solar Beam, a Fire Blast in the Sun, and Stealth Rock's damage from a Timid Charizard Y. We can actually take all 3 and still be alive on max rolls. Very interesting. I can switch into Stealth Rocks, take 12%. I can take a Fire Blast, and I can take a Solar Beam all together, all 3. So kind of random stat, but it's interesting to note. This thing could potentially tease that Charizard into thinking it can kill me with a Solar Beam, and I've obviously got the Mirror Coat, which does go through Assault Vest. I've got the Counter, which also goes through Assault Vest. It counts as an offensive move. I've got Scald on there, as he really doesn't have too many Scald switch-ins, I learned from his team. I mean, Starmie is probably the best one, but if I can catch him on a T-Bolt, I could just hit him back with that nice Mirror Coat. And then I've got the Rapid Spin there, obviously, which provides nice team support for Victini. My team doesn't stress Stealth Rocks too much, but it's nice to get them off the field to give Victini a little bit more longevity if I need that switch-in or something like that. So that is going to be our squad, man. We're taking on the Atlanta Hawluchas. They're 8-1. Really got to pick up this win this week, guys. I'm going to be putting it all on the line here. I spent a lot of time preparing, spent a lot of effort on this team, and I really hope that we're going to be able to pull out with the W. So definitely show your love on that like button down below. I look forward to our match tomorrow, guys, and that's going to be it for me. I will catch you guys later. Peace.